don't have to look for... What are you looking for, yourself or
No,
for
for
me?
you, gone live.
Yeah, so... We've had somebody already with us. Good evening. And yeah, we'll just take a few minutes for the rest to join us. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've got 2 viewers already.
But I still haven't found you. I haven't connected it.
You're sitting right next to me, Tony. You don't have to find me.
I'm sorry if it sounded like I was mumbling. I was just saying I haven't connected onto the Instagram live as yet.
On his phone.
On my phone, because I can keep a track of any comments and messages that way.
Right. Anyway, good evening. And at this distance, I'm not able to see the names, but I want to greet each one of you, whether it's morning or evening or whatever time zone you are in. We're really excited to share about today's topic, which is communication, and we know how important that is in all aspects of our
especially between husband and wife.
We're going to see some interesting communication going on between husband and wife here today.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. We were just discussing that a little earlier, and you know, we will, of course, talk about the different styles of communication or, you know, how each one is wired up. But definitely Tony and me have different ways of communicating. And there are times when I know I have completely lost him. He's not with me. And then I have to pause and I have to say it again. Or I think he has to just pretend that he has understood what I'm saying. So it's not about just the words, the language, but it is also about the tone of voice, the body language. And so we're going to explore all the aspects of communication today. So if it's 6 p.m., I can then maybe start off with an amazing quote by George Bernard Shaw. Is it 6 p.m.? Should I start?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, okay. So I really like this one because it says what is it? The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
I have said what I had to say. I'm not sure if you've understood, heard, you know, so that's basically what it is, right? So we go with the thought process that I've said my piece, and now I'm looking for reaction, I'm looking for action, I'm looking for a response.
So silence is a response.
Words don't speak words speak, actions don't, for me at least. That's my style of communication. I expect words. If the actions are used in place of words, then they need to be a little more, effective or more pronounced, you know, like a hug, those kind of things. Yeah, but you can't just say, oh, I love you, by being silent, right? What do you say, ladies? Whoever is here, tell us about what your form of communication is. Do you like to hear, I love you, you're the best, and stuff like that? Okay, I don't need to hear that every day, but every now and then it is good. And look at his expression, look at his expression.
Well, I mean, you know how communication works, right?
Okay, over to you, Tony. You're the boss of communication. Let's see what he has to say.
Right, and I know I'm going to put my foot in my mouth over here, but let me just go for it. Now, we all know communication can take on many forms, right? I mean, there's verbal communication, there's non-verbal communication, there is
nodding of head.
Yeah, there's body language, which in itself is a form of communication, and
right.
There are people for whom body language and what they can actually see plays a very big role in how the communication process takes place or unfolds. So the communication process, as we know it, has multiple stages. The prime stages of the communication process are, firstly, is the sender formulating the message in his head or her head.
Her head.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the wife formulating the message in the husband's head, right? So putting words in his mouth, etc., etc. But I was just kidding there.
We're just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. It can be vice versa, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, touche. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So right. So you've got that stage one. It's getting thoughts in place and organizing the thoughts and how you want to get the message out.
Right.
Then it's encoding the message. So once you have it in your head, how you want to put it forward into actual delivery format.
Okay.
Right? So whether it's words or it's written, the words you're going to use if you're speaking, the words you're going to use if you're writing, and of course you all know when you speak, whatever comes out, very difficult to take back.
Right.
But when you write, you've got time to correct, you have time to think while you're writing, and you also have the opportunity to hold back on sending out a message if it's written. Yeah. So that is actually the third part of the communication process, and that's the channel that you use to get your message across.
Right.
So as we spoke, you've got your written channels, you've got your verbal channels, you've got your non-verbal channels. Now in the written channel, of course, you have communication that's evolved into an art form with all the LOLs and
emojis,
WTFs, and I really don't know very much about this, but it's a generational thing, so
absolutely. Please excuse us.
Yeah, sure. Please do. Yeah, right. So that's the channel, and then the message has to be is sent across.
Yeah,
and the receiver, when he gets the message, now has to decode what the message actually means. And once the message is decoded, the understanding can be anything from a one-sided perspective to a common perspective. And finally, there's feedback, and the feedback is merely confirmation that the message has been understood. So just to recap or reiterate, it's the encoding, so that's formulating of the message.
Yeah.
Then it's the
response.
It's the channel.
It's the channel.
It's the channel
of how
how the message is going to be delivered.
Right.
It's the decoding. Now the receiver has to understand the message.
Yeah.
And then the receiver gives the feedback or returns information to show that the message has been received. Now, all of these processes can happen in a verbal or in a non-verbal way, and it takes on different perspectives, so to speak. The messages can be delivered comfortably. The messages can be delivered in a manner that is confusing. But then that again, it's a matter of is the message being delivered in a confusing manner, or has the message been received in a confusing manner?
The channel of communication can get disturbed quite a bit.
The distortion
rather, I should say.
Yeah, the distortion can happen for multiple reasons, and yes, the choosing the right channel to get the message across is very important. Now, how do you normally communicate? My guess is most of your communication is verbal.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what happens in all our interactions. I mean, I wouldn't sit in the same room with my wife and text her when I could talk to her. I wouldn't.
But you could.
But I could.
I think the present, what I have heard from some moms or parents, they'll say that the kids are sitting around on a table, they're supposedly together, but they are texting to one another because there's more fun, there's a unique language that they use in texting. But then we are not discussing that here. What we are talking about is the most common form of communication being used, and that is
which
the verbal.
is verbal.
Right.
Right. So now,
The challenge.
what do you all think? I mean, how do you all choose to communicate mainly, and what do you think your ability to communicate is? How good do you think you are? And let's be honest, I mean, we all rate ourselves as good communicators. We all believe that we are good at getting the message across.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Even for the most experienced communicators, or even if you think of teachers and coaches, or managers and bosses in the workplace, in a conference room, at meetings, the words are there, but
The
the
message
possibility
could be lost
very much so.
from where it's originating to who it is being delivered to. And it's also how, there's so many aspects that can sort of distort it, right? It's the person, what emotional state they are in.
Yes, of
The
course.
tone of voice could get carried. So if I'm having a tough day, I might sound more snappy in my communication, even though I might not mean to be that way, or in the subtle tones as most it is believed that women will sort of hide in their disagreement in a snappy tone. That's what it is believed. I'm not saying it's only limited to women. So it's really hard to ensure that your message is getting across and it's being received with the right understanding of what is being said.
Absolutely. So let me ask you to send in your messages to us. What do you think are the barriers to communication that you all experience most of the time? Whether it's someone not getting the message right, or you sometimes getting the message across in a manner that could be misinterpreted, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not only how we prefer to communicate or what our barriers might be, but it's also choice of words, right? It's the tone of voice. It's what form you've used. You could be an auditory person, but you could be communicating with somebody who's more visually tuned in to understanding. So, I mean, that's a typical thing between Tony and me. I'm auditory, so I can rattle off what I'm trying to say. The same thing I can repeat like 5 times in different ways, while Tony is more visual. So I can, over these years, I've kind of understood when I've completely lost him, because his eyes go like this, or he'll find somewhere else to look at. His eyes will kind of just move away. So I know that he's not on the same page. And over a period of time, I've kind of understood that maybe I need to choose a better time to communicate what I'm trying to say. So anyway, back to the barriers. So do we have some?
Yes, we've got some information over here, and there's one comment: verbal communication is definitely my preferred way.
You're right.
Lots of emotional influences interfere with the way I deliver.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it has a huge impact on how we're communicating, your emotional influencers.
Right.
Thank you for that.
And however, the receiver can also decode it because of other distress factors.
Right.
And there's a follow-up comment: some influences are stress, tiredness, and how strongly I feel on the matter. And absolutely right. Stress plays a huge role in how communication is either given out or received. Because stress on the part of the sender might cause them to say things or write something that they didn't really intend, and then the message comes across in not the way. So the sender ends up with, you know what, but that's not what I really meant to say.
Yeah.
Right. So stress, use of slang.
Yeah.
The other person might not understand what you mean, what you might have intended to say.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens with me, not about the slang, but maybe that's why I feel I might repeat myself a couple of times using maybe different words there. And that's because I'm picking up that body language with the person who's receiving or is on the other end. I could probably see that from their body language they've not understood what I'm saying. So I tend to do that. I tend to just re-explain myself, and perhaps I'm also doing it to help me because I'm more auditory. So there's so many factors. Amazing, right? How does one create a win-win situation where you really communicate appropriately or correctly so that it is decoded by the other person in the right way?
Right. So some of the things that we tend to be a little more aware of is the way we learn and we receive information. And you touched on that earlier, and that's are you communicating with a visual person? Are you communicating with an auditory person, or with someone who is more kinesthetic?
Right.
So with someone who receives information visually, the idea is to have FaceTime with that person. And of course, this is for important messages. Have the FaceTime where your facial expressions and your body language can reinforce or emphasize the message that's being given across. For someone who's auditory, they rely mainly on words. Okay, so it's what they hear.
Yeah.
But there's also the underlying effect of the tone of voice that's
being used.
Because the tone of voice plays a large part in this communication process.
Yeah.
So if at all you have to get your message across in an auditory fashion, you also got to be aware of information overload. So you can't start and keep going. And especially if you're expecting someone to respond to you,
you have to pause for the other person to
exactly.
respond.
So and in that time, someone gets their message across. No, but seriously, it's all in the balance of how well you know the other person, how well you know yourself, and how quickly you're able to pick on the other person's reactions and their responses,
their style
to understand how well they are receiving your message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important, sort of keeping an awareness of, rather than just being in your own process of communicating, pausing or even being very aware what the other person, how they are reacting. So if it is over a written, an email or a message, then you obviously are going to wait for a message to come back to you to understand how they have decoded your message, your communication, and then respond accordingly. And like Tony was saying, the written one is a little easier because you can look at your message, you can edit it, think over it before you send it out. But the verbal one is by far the most complicated. And what about, Tony, I know you have this amazing, what is it called? It's colored brain communication. What's that? You thought you're amazing? Is that what you thought?
Yeah, that's
communication,
yeah,
right? I was not giving you a compliment per se to you, but I was talking about a technique that you have learned. It's called colored brain communication. So why don't you share something with the audience about that? Because I think that in a way really helps you to understand who you're communicating with and how to adjust your format accordingly. So tell us a little more about that.
Sure, but well, what can I say? I heard, Tony, you're amazing, and I didn't hear anything else after that.
Yeah.
Okay, but before I respond to
the color break,
to how amazing I am, I'll just read out 2 more comments that we received. That's quite pertinent over here.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
So there are so many variables. I prefer to. Okay, I'm having
difficulty reading.
Yeah. No, it's. I prefer to to take people at face value, but I'm learning to pause and wonder and dissect what was actually meant and where the person is coming from. A work in progress. Yeah, so that's a great comment, and it's always great to, when you get when you receive a message that you're not so sure about, is to pause and be a little non-judgmental for a short while.
Yeah.
Before you can actually get back and respond. So
basically, don't take it personally immediately. Like in the sense, like don't, like you said, not to be judgmental, rather than giving him or her that space. And sometimes you just, the other person's just having a bad day, not because of what they're upset with what you're saying, but they're just not in the right headspace at that moment in time to deal with the topic that you are trying to address with them. And so timing is very important, I think, with communication.
Yeah, timing is very important with communication. So especially if you're talking to your husband or something, I mean, try not to get involved in a conversation of importance while a football match is on.
Exactly.
So,
and that's exactly when, we get upset. It's about finding the right time, and there are some things that Tony, in our earlier days, years of our marriage, would love listening, watching the WWF on a Friday evening at 5 p.m. And that's the time I really wanted to go out and do something, and he's sitting there with a glass of Coke and watching this WWF, and the very sound of it would like really bring out the annoyance in me. And so, like Tony was saying, timing. Now, how do I go and disturb him when I know he's really having a great time there? So it's about letting the other person know, not at that time, but at a better time, when they're in a better frame of mind, to see that, look, that doesn't really help me on a Friday evening when you're watching WWF, when we can actually go out and have a good weekend together. So timing,
timing's pretty important. Now,
important.
There was also a comment that said tone of voice.
Very important.
And I'll share this. I'll share this with you personally. Tone of voice is very important for me too. Now,
among other things.
Yeah.
You're a little difficult to communicate with, yeah, Tony?
I can be. I can be. But however, as we were saying, tone of voice now, it's a generalization, and this leans in favor of the husbands.
Mm-hmm.
That when the wives start talking, they're about to scold the husbands, or they're.
That's such a cliche.
No, but that's what I said. It's a generalization.
It is.
So husbands are very sensitive to tone of voice.
What about children? Even they, you catch them at a time when you are constantly lecturing or nagging. You can completely lose their attention. They're not going to be listening to you at that time. So you really again have to have good timing. Back in the office, I mean, if a manager wants to get some work done, or vice versa, if the juniors want something, an approval for something, if they go to their manager when the manager's got lots of things going on, it's quite unlikely that he or she is going to say yes, right? So timing is important. Tone of voice is important.
Yes, of course. And this brings us back to Vandana's earlier comment about the. Did you mention colored brain communication?
Yes, I would love for you to share that with our viewers.
So in In a prelude to colored brain communication, we in our past workshops we've spoken about the emotional influencers and the emotional identifiers. And the emotional influencers and identifiers do feature very strongly in the communication process. Yep. So we do understand that personality and ego and everything plays its role.
Yeah.
But there is another aspect to effective communication, and that falls into the realms of colored brain communication. Colored brain communication, pardon me, was formulated by Arthur Kamazi, who's one of America's top culture change and management gurus. And I had the pleasure of training with him personally in Bali. He has a resort called Camelot,
right,
which is also his training center. And he came up with this concept that there are 4 different types of inherent information processing styles.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's nothing to do with personality. Personality has its role and personality has its place, but this inherent information processing style makes a difference in how we communicate too.
Okay. So how we are processing the information that we are reading or hearing or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
And then what do we do with that information? So the number one information processing style, or the color is green, which is my prime color.
You're very green today.
Yeah, and I'm just going to be brief with each color. So a green brain person can extract information one piece at a time, and can act on it, and can respond or take particular action.
Okay.
Now a green brain person has to take action to understand.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were discussing something with me, and me being a green brain person, and you say, yeah, we've got to do all of this, we've got to do all of that, and Tony, you got to do this, and Tony, you got to do that. I have to actually be involved in the activity to get a complete picture.
Okay. So multitasking vaguely is not a strength.
No, we can multitask, because when we don't correlate each particular action.
Okay.
Yep. So the green brains extract individual snippets of information and take action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they put the whole picture together when they have sufficient of action taken and sufficient information in place.
You told me that earlier. I'm just kidding. I always knew he was green brain.
Yeah.
Or rather, since he's a trainer in colored brain, I am aware of it. So I'm a little more mindful about my communication with him. But please continue.
Right. Now, my second most dominant color is blue. Right. And the blue are as we spoke, are the kinesthetic. Yeah, they're the more touchy-feely and I believe and I feel kind of information processors.
Okay.
Yeah. So all the information that comes to a blue brain person tends to be connected. So a blue brain person will connect the information that you're giving me right now to information that you've given me yesterday, and information that concerns the children, and all of this is important in the entire equation.
Right.
So blue brain people need information. Blue brain people needs sensory revalidation,
right,
to get the message clearly understood and clearly delivered. And then you have the red brain person. You have a red brain person who for whom information is king. Yep. I beg your pardon. For whom clarity is king.
Yes.
So a red brain person needs clarity before they will actually take action. And if a red brain person is receiving information but there's no clarity, then they'll ask questions to get more clarity. And when it comes to giving of information, the red brain people will go on and on and on in the belief that they are giving proper clarity to the situation.
So in the bargain, a red brain communicating to a green one with so much information, by the time I've mentioned 2 or 3 points, I think you've had an information overload.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I don't need a dissertation. A couple of bullet points would be fine, you know. That's how it works best for me.
Right. Okay.
Right. And the last one is the purple brain. The purple brain is a combination of the red and the blue, where the purple brain, again, everything is connected. Everything is connected. Where information is king and clarity is king, and they need to be able to connect the dots to everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
So those are those...
detail. Right. They need detail.
Yeah.
And so purple brain people tend to communicate outwardly in detail just as well, because that's the only kind of communication they know.
Right.
So, you know, you have the people in these particular jobs, finance, IT, engineers.
What a huge strength it will be, right? To connect everything, such an important part of their understanding and delivering.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
However, now that was just in brief.
Yeah, of course.
The fun is in understanding and interpreting these different the colored brain communication styles in the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the workplace you've got you've got all sorts of people from all different cultures, different backgrounds, and if you're unable to communicate with them in the right channel, you know, choosing the right medium, then there's misunderstanding, or information is lost, or as they say, lost in translation.
Or the projects take longer to kickstart, or
absolutely,
or there's a lot of probably bickering about certain things, like over petty things.
I mean, imagine if you had a green brain boss. Yep, and you being red brain, and your boss said, "I need some information on." You know, on the new Samsung Ultra.
Yeah.
So you go to the boss with 3 pages of information, and your boss looks at your 3 pages of information, and now he's green-brained, right? So he needs
bullet points.
Yeah.
Something that he or she can go directly and take action from there.
Yeah. So he takes your 3-page report and looks at it for a minute and drops it on the table and says, "Okay, thank you very much."
Yeah.
How are you going to feel about that?
What time wasted? Like, I mean, you've not even looked at what all I've done. Yeah. But this can happen in school, teacher, children, of course, in your personal relationships, of course, huge. Office scenarios, such an important way of understanding how the other person is communicating. So you are trained in colored brain communication. You're a trainer, and you can run this workshop, right?
Right. Yeah. So, we've actually got the workshop kind of almost ready to go, 90% ready to go. So it's just about completing a workshop and then fixing a date. Yeah. So we can present it. So the date will be announced, but if there's anyone who's interested in the colored brain communication workshop, do let us know. Yeah. And there's a comment from someone that says, "I'm definitely blue brain, and isn't that great for you to be able to know?" Yeah. Now, as a blue brain person, do you also know who are the kind of which are the different brain colors that you're most likely to have difficulty with? If you don't, then you need to be on the workshop. If you know who are the kind or which kind of colored brain communication processes are easiest to communicate with, that you might be able to tell from people. Yeah. But the advantages and the disadvantages,
And also it's
something.
how you can, how you can use it as a strength rather than a weakness, and also are you able to then, suppose I'm red brain and I know that I have to get my point across to a green brain, I should know how to adjust my communication for me to be understood, because finally communication is you want your point understood, you want your thought process understood, right? So it's about adjusting your communication to sort of get the right response or reaction or an outcome, I should say.
Sure, pretty much so. And having said that, while we do have in the words that you'd mentioned on the last workshop, we do have a primary and a secondary colored brain processor. There are people, and I have come across people who have an equal balance of all four colors.
All four.
Wow,
yeah. Amazing, right? They would be great communicators.
So they can switch between the different roles depending on whom they're communicating with.
I would love to learn how to do that.
This is a learned process.
Yeah.
Because when you understand the process, then you can understand how to switch between one and the other. When you understand the other person and how they like to receive the information, then you can switch from your primary to their primary.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what in our line of work, when we are doing any kind of coaching session, we have to adjust and communicate so that the receiver understands what they have to do. So in a way we have to bring that concept in there. So like Tony said, we will be rolling out the date soon, but if you're interested, do let us know so we know that we can get the information across to you once we finalize the date. Hopefully we will have it in the month of September. We have some more announcements to make, and that is that
we're having a baby.
Tony, that's the joke with some lack of communication here. Is that Tony and me are now doing one-on-one coaching sessions. So it's called Cognitive and Consciousness Awareness Coaching Sessions. And so that can be done online or in person. If you would like to know more about it, send us a message. And also I will be putting it out on social media and WhatsApp, a little bit of more information about it. So it's the one-on-one. We also are going to roll out group coaching sessions. So that would be, of course, on Zoom platform, and it will be, we'll basically have a small group and where we will be able to have coaching session on a group scenario, right? Mm-hmm. And I will also be rolling out our special prices for the month of September and October. And what else? And the Colored Brain workshop. So yeah, I think lots of things that we are bringing up for the month of September and October.
Right. And it would be great if when we put these the notices of the workshop out, please share it with your friends as much as possible, because the wider the circle, the more opportunity there is for us to share and for others to learn.
Yeah. It's really nice to sort of take small parts of these different topics and to help everyone sort of feel more comfortable with these, right? And that is our intention through these sessions, whether they are seeds of thought or they are coaching sessions or whether they are one-on-one sessions. So that's any questions from our viewers today. If there are any questions or any more feedback or input, we would love to address them right now.
Sure,
Tony?
Sure, yeah. So again, let me throw out the question. I mean, what are the greatest barriers in communication in your sphere of influence?
Or even, you realize that was a barrier and you sort of picked on it and have enhanced your style of communication so that you have a win-win situation. Because ultimately, the whole goal is to get your point across, to have the right outcome of the situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the ultimate goal, right? Yeah. The goal is not to offend anybody or to have a blank communication sent back to you. You want the other person to be able to understand your viewpoint and have a better result out of it, an outcome, like I was saying. So if you've had, an opportunity to sort of enhance and fine tune your communication because you realize that this was not really helping in any context, whether it's in a personal relationship or in the office, with your children, do share it with us. We would love to know a little bit, or like Tony asked, are there any barriers that we can sort of explore together here today?
Right, and yeah, for any teachers out there, Happy Teachers Day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it is International Teachers Day
Is
today.
it international or is it only in India?
Well, I think it's it's quite important in India, but I mean, a teacher's a teacher, so Happy
Yes, of
Teachers
course.
Day.
Happy Teachers Day to each one of you, and
thank you for the contribution that you make.
Yeah. So I still remember during like I don't know if it's international or no, but I do remember my school days when we had Teachers Day. We students would dress up as teachers, and it was really fun. We could wear saris, and we used to have a little fun program for the teachers and get them flowers and stuff like that. So
yeah, and there's this joke that's going around.
And that is?
Well, the joke just says, I called up my teacher today to thank them for making me the person who I am today.
Yeah.
And my teacher said, don't blame me, I tried my best. So there you go.
Right, okay, yeah. It's amazing, right? We have so many teachers in different moments of our lives. We're all constantly learning from the other person. I look at everybody being sort of a teacher for me.
Right, and we have a Happy Teachers Day to us both, so thank you so much.
Thank you, that's really kind of you.
Yeah. Can I just read a couple of comments?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so rushing to prejudge any situation was my strongest barrier, working on it. So that's great. The whole idea is to be aware and to be aware of the consequences of that particular action.
Yeah. Awareness is so important,
Yeah.
right? That's the first step towards change. I always like to believe that when we are aware, we can make a change. Otherwise, we are in denial. So that's great, wonderful.
Right. So I tend to lay out information and allow the other person to make a decision. I try not to influence, but perhaps I should. I try not to influence, but perhaps I should. Well, there's nothing wrong in being influential. Again, keeping in mind that it's a win-win situation, and if you can influence a positive decision, why not?
Yeah, you're not
Absolutely.
using coercion.
Yeah.
You're just using your technique of communication,
Yeah.
and perhaps in the communication, while you're communicating with the other person, they might bring in another aspect to it, which might help you look at it differently, right?
Yeah, and again, over here we're working on the basis that when you're trying to influence the outcome, it's for the best, and you're actually laying out the different steps or the processes or the various aspects of the
situation
that goes into the situation. So that the other person can see that it's for the best. And that's what clarity is all about. So
and I would love that, because for the red brain in me, different scenarios helps me to see that I have the choice to make an informed decision from there. So I think that's wonderful, like putting all the information out there and then letting them make a choice. But in the way you're putting the information, you are in a way, I think, influencing, right? I would say.
You're influencing, you're not manipulating.
Yeah. You're still letting them be empowered and make their own decision.
Yeah. And we have another comment that says, so I have been able to be aware when the communication does not go well, so I agree to inform them. We will discuss it later on when I'm more calm. And that's a good thing to do. If you feel that you're getting uptight with the conversation and you feel that you might respond in either a manner that could have a negative effect, or you might choose words that that I don't want to say that you might regret later, but you might choose words that won't give you the desired outcome. Then yes, it's best to again to hold back a bit, to calm yourself down. And it's great that you actually identify that you're aware of when the conversation is not going the way it should, and you're taking ownership for it. So when you take ownership for your actions, you're empowering yourself.
Yeah, you're taking that pause so that you could regroup yourself and have clarity on what you want to say. But I think this is just a thought process that came up while you were sharing that, is it's how you break away from that communication. So assuming that there is a communication, a two-way process, and I'm assuming it's going verbal, and you suddenly realize that, you know what, it's not going the way which is healthy for both of us, then you want to walk away, or you want to exit from it, or take a pause to rethink. Wouldn't it be also important how you're breaking away from it?
Yeah, just say fine.
That's horrible. That would be
fine.
Then if the other person is getting offended by saying, I don't want to continue with this conversation anymore, so I think you need to be a little mindful there, right?
Yes, of course. And again, it comes back to your self-awareness. Now if you as you mentioned, you're aware that the conversation is not going the way it should go, then
say I just need to rethink. I'm not, I don't know how you're doing it, but this is just something that triggered a thought process in my mind. Is if I was on the receiving end, I wouldn't want someone to just walk away. Rather, if they told me, like, you know what, I need a break, I just need to pause, I need to understand how we can discuss this further, I'm more likely to accept that.
Fine.
You know what I'm hinting at, right?
Fine, or whatever. You got a comment. Whatever. Whatever works. So, so you're absolutely right about the how you go about disconnecting from that particular conversation. And I always say, when things aren't going well, have a soda.
You mean the Coke and the WWF?
No. Soda being an acronym for stop, observe your actions, observe what you're thinking, decide, and then act. So it's stop, observe, decide, act. So when you go through that process, then you give yourself enough of time to calm down, to get your thoughts together, to collect yourself, and then to go back into the conversation in a more chilled manner, a more in a better place, in a happier place, so to speak.
So another silly thought that came up, not silly, but just a different scenario. What if somebody stops at the decide aspect and does not act after it, or doesn't follow up? It could happen, right? So stop, observe, decide, and then in their minds they decide that they don't want to act anymore on this topic or conversation. Is the onus on them to let the other party know that I've decided not to act on this topic more?
Yeah, so even if you have decided not to take any action, you've still decided.
That's what I'm saying. What if they pause and decide and not take action of letting the other party know? Just, there's so many things that can happen in a communication.
There are so many variables, and then this is more on WhatsApp, where it's easy to just go on and say I need time, I don't agree with what we are saying, and that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. So again, WhatsApp communication has kind of dominated our lives at this point. So again, are you using an emoji to emphasize what you're saying? What kind of an emoji are you using? So these things are all important. Are you using all caps to say, hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Fine. Again, the protocol of WhatsApp, uh, the change in how language has evolved is now evident on on WhatsApp and this text speak.
Yeah.
So
The language that
it's something that our generation did not have to concern ourselves with. We just had to worry about writing. Emails were a foreign thing to us once upon a time.
Once upon a time, we've got used to it, and I think we've got used to WhatsApp also.
Yeah.
And since I work with energy, I think I just want to bring in that concept that it does matter. It's what energy you bring into the conversation or in the communication. So we were talking about tone of voice, which is part of the energy. We're talking about body language, which is part of the energy. But overall, what energy are you carrying around you? How clear you are in your own aware of yourself before you start that conversation, especially if it is going to be a little bit of a challenging communication that you're going to be embarking on. So just being a little aware of your energy field, so to say. Vibrations.
Because at the end of the day, your energy field will determine how you're going to respond in a huge manner. Because your energy field will affect your emotional level, your physical, your physiology, so to speak. And physiology plays a huge part in our psychological process. So when we are happy in the body, we're happy in the mind. So if you're unhappy in the body, then your responses or your interactions and your relationships could be affected.
It's like I need my morning green tea to get into an action of communicating.
Well, I mean, but it's great when you when you understand yourself.
Each other and yourself and each other, whoever you're communicating with, whether it's in your personal relationships or in your work environment. Important, right?
Very, very.
This has been interesting.
Right? It has been, and if there are any questions that you have in a follow-up, we'd be happy to answer them. But for now,
we can say thank you very much for joining us today. We've had an interesting conversation regarding communication. So I hope this has helped you to look at your style of communication, and if, like Tony was saying earlier, if you're interested in learning the colored brain communication, then do send us a message, and we'll be happy to share more about that workshop with you. I can see some more comments being made. Any questions that we need to address here, or?
Well, okay, I've got to thank you for giving me the points. Awesome, both of you. So thank you so much for that. And there is another comment. People these days are stuck in their frame of mind and can't deviate from their beliefs and opinions. I must admit I've given up. I just let them win. It's good for my well-being. So there are multiple ways to approach that. And I think you would be the best judge of which battle you want to take on and which you don't want to. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war, but we know that's not necessarily the case over here.
Context here,
but as you say, it's good for your well-being. Yeah, sure, you don't want to get into negativity with anyone, and you don't want to encourage someone else's negativity if someone is stuck in their own beliefs. Their beliefs are their beliefs. Your beliefs are yours. So, you know what's good for you, and you know how it affects your well-being. So,
live and let live.
Live and let live, absolutely.
Some communications where it's not important and you can sort of cut yourself away from it, then that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. There's a certain boundary that you have to maintain for your well-being, so that it doesn't disturb you. So thank you for sharing that with us, and we look forward to having our next Seeds of Thought, not the next Saturday, the Saturday after that. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back. But I will be with you on Facebook next Sunday with my meditation. So thank you so much for engaging in today's conversation with us. And we'll take care of yourselves and stay in touch.
Yeah, time is relative, isn't it? I mean,
What do you mean?
it's like time to go, and just when we were getting warmed up.
You feel like communicating more to
I
me?
do.
We've had a change.
Yes, so thank you very much, and thanks very much for your support with the comments, and we really appreciate it. So, yeah.
I'm going to capitalize on the fact that he's in a communicative mood. So, my lucky day. All right, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, and take care of yourselves, and we'll be back soon.
Yep. Once again, it's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you all again.
Bye. No, it's not stopped. Yeah, and okay. Now wear glasses. You can see what you're doing.
In video.
Yeah. Okay.